Okay, so I think we are ready to start. Before we start the speeches, we also want to say thank you to all the volunteers, former and also current students. Without your help, this would not be possible or organized as it is. So thank you so much for coming and share your stories with the guests. And the first one to speak tonight is Maria Serpa.
Hello, everyone. I am very happy to be here with all of you. My journey to this moment began in 2019 when I arrived in Canada. I dream to live in a place where my family and I are safe and our rights are respected. After months of research, my family and I discovered that Winnipeg was the best place to start a new chapter in our lives. We were looking for a family-friendly place. We were looking for a family. We were looking for a family-friendly place where newcomers could adapt easily, promote art, green spaces, and foster a sense of community. One of the first parks I read about was Kildonal Park, and and I was captivated by the idea of visiting the witch's hut, walking through the green areas and admiring the fall foliage. And guess what I did when I came here? That was the first park I visited, and it was even more beautiful than I imagined. Additionally, we were looking for a place with a low cost of living and an easy migration process. Winnipeg ticketed all the boxes and welcomed us with open arms. However, as with any new beginning, there were challenges. One of the biggest challenges I faced was the language barrier. I didn't have the language skills I needed to thrive in my new environment. I decided to enroll at Heartland in their full program. My teachers at Heartland were amazing, and the program was exactly what I needed. I gained not only the knowledge, but also the confidence to speak in public. I understand how difficult and vulnerable it feels when we cannot communicate in English. But believe me, it gets better and better with time and effort. As newcomers, we often feel alone. In Ireland, my classmates became friends and turned into family. The Friday's activities were my favorite. They helped me to connect with other students from different programs and introduced me to amazing places where I learned about Canadian culture. After completing the program, I felt confident enough to apply for my first job. The experience opened the door to my second job, and today I am proud to say that I am a property manager for Condominium, our property management company here in Winnipeg. I wouldn't be where I am today without Heartland's program and the support I received from my teachers and the administrative team. To all the new students, do not fear speaking in public. Your English skills will only get better and better. Keep learning, embrace the culture, cherish your roots, and fulfill your dreams. Thank you for listening and for being part of this wonderful event today.
Amazing speech, right? Wow. Next, we have Carol and Kira.
Everybody, thanks for coming. And it's so great to see so many familiar faces, people I haven't seen for years. and so many people that have contributed to our success over the years. And like I've been here so long, I always tell students and the other teachers that I will be the last one here. I'll be like the zombie teacher, or maybe that teacher from Harry Potter who was a ghost. So, and Kira and I, we're going to be here 25 years next year. So. I started in July 2001. You started in August, yeah. So I came back from Chile, teaching in Chile for about 9 years, and I remember I got an interview with Gary. It was like late June, I think, and then I started on July 3rd, 2001, and it's just been amazing. And the difference in cultures. Like my boss in Chile was never to be seen. It was very hierarchical. Heartland, I was amazed because Gary would just come out and say hi and start talking, and he was so friendly. And that was the same of Stuart, the head teacher there, and Jody, the other teacher in our little school.
Yeah, 25 years is a long time. And I have to say, I didn't feel old until we started looking at old photos. But I can still remember my interview like it was yesterday. I kind of felt like I bonded. I remember it was just the weirdest circumstance. I had twisted my ankle the night before, so I hobbled in on crutches for this interview. I felt like this is a terrible first impression. Gary he threw me off by asking some random baseball question. If I saw myself as a starting pitcher, relief pitcher, closing pitcher, I don't know baseball. I just kind of went with my gut and I said, I'm a starting pitcher. Only to kind of think about it later, like, oh no, he wants a relief pitcher. He's been doing this all on his own. Got that wrong too. Then he insisted on walking me out, which is kind of weird, but I guess he had somewhere else to go. And I was mortified because I couldn't drive with my bum ankle, and so my parents drove me to it. It was all just so embarrassing. But I managed to get the job, and hopefully you haven't looked back. I also remember my first day. There was a very sweet but maybe naive teacher who said, "Which country are you from?" But it was a great time. And as well as we've all aged, I think Gary's maybe aged the best. He was actually bald when we first met. It wasn't until much later when he let his hair grow out that I realized that was a fashion choice.
Yeah, but you look the same, and it's very annoying. So we started in that little place on 508 Portage, opposite University of Winnipeg, with 3 little tiny classrooms. And I think your office was a converted broom closet. And the walls are really thin. And my classroom was next to the men's room. And I remember my students giggling all the time because they could hear everything. And then we got bigger and we had to rent a few classrooms in the building next to us. And they came in handy when another ESL school suddenly closed. And, it was so nice of Gary because he offered to take on their abandoned students, which I think was an act of generosity that really cemented his reputation in the ESL industry. And then we moved to Portage and Main, 161, right? And we had so many rooms and they filled up really quickly. And then we moved to the Massey building down the street over here, and finally to our forever home here at 280 William. Yeah, oh yeah, and we were so happy for each move because it got bigger and better every time. And like at 508 Portage, Gary used to have to clean the bathrooms. And when he was away, we had to clean the bathrooms. And so then getting ready to move to 161 Portage, I remember it was a really do-it-yourself kind of move. And I remember washing my classroom walls with TSP to clean up for the next tenant. And I'm so glad we have the wonderful Galena to clean this place now. Anyway, and so 161 Portage was a nice building, but very corporate. Our neighbors used to complain about a teacher whistling when he went to the bathroom. And at 294, another bathroom. Why did you give me all the bathroom stories here? So we have always a Christmas party with Santa Claus, and we always, here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus. You know that song, right? Down Santa Claus Lane. And Santa broke the urinal, and so we started singing, "Where is Santa Claus? Where is Santa Claus?" So yeah, there was always the bathroom.
Not just broke the urinal, but it caused flooding, not just on the 4th floor of the Massey building, but it was bad enough it trickled down the wall. So, there have been many ups and downs over the last 25 years, but we've always managed to survive. We like to say that when Gary's away, something always goes wrong. But with the exception of the time Gary took off for a month to travel around Australia and didn't leave me with the means to pay any bills, most of the challenges I can't blame on him. We've survived things from 9/11 travel restrictions, SARS, H1N1, economy crashes, COVID, numerous visa changes, the government capping international student numbers, and more. But somehow we've always managed to get through it, and I'd say as a stronger, even tighter-knit team.
Yeah, so we always talk about Heartland having a family atmosphere, and loads of friendships have been along the way, and some of you are witness to that. Former students like Galina have started working here. Teachers have become friends with students like Janine and her Ukrainian friend Natalia, who've been friends for over a decade now, I think, right? And there have been love connections. A few students looked at our logo and they thought Heartland was a school/dating agency. But some famous love connections made at Heartland are Gary and Fernanda. Yeah. And you know, Teacher John and Jasmine, of course, they've got a new baby. And Sarah, former teacher, and Claudio as well. Plus innumerable student romances. Sometimes we had to hold them and staff and students even came to my wedding. It was really fun, lots of photos. And when Heartland staff have gone through sad times, everyone has been so supportive. I remember when my mother died and how kind everybody was. They all came to her funeral, and I really appreciated that support and kindness. And well, besides a great atmosphere, what are the secrets to Heartland lasting 25 years and going strong? Well, there's a great business concept. I don't know about that really. That's been Gary's and Kira's province, but Gary can tell you about that in detail for several hours. But honesty, I think this is a huge one, honesty, because I've watched Gary and Kira resist so many dishonest actors who try to bribe their way through school or bribe their way through IELTS tests, and it's always fun to watch Gary kick them out. And collegiality, this is a word I learned from Stuart, our former lead teacher. I think that, supporting not only our school, but work with other ESL schools in Manitoba in our pathway programs and more. Flexibility. For example, starting online Zoom classes immediately after lockdown was declared. Not many schools started out as fast as we did off the gun when that happened, when lockdown happened. Of course, Kira and Gary are very good at hiring people who go beyond the usual, and I think our staff can be good examples of that right now. We have a supportive team. The staff here, I must say, is so wonderful. So I'm looking at everybody. Yoshiko, Moe, Douglas, Jasmine, Miguel, Jen, Naomi, Grace, Michelle, Margaret, Scott, and all former staff, anybody, but you're great. And Gary and Kira also treat people well. I think that's so important. They're the most open-minded, kind-hearted people you could ever work with. Relationships in this business and everywhere are so important. And in all these years, I don't think we've ever had a quarrel or a coolness. 25 years of students' positive feedback can attest to that.
So those are really important elements on how a business can thrive and survive for 25 years. But I'd also like to share some tips on how to survive 25 years with Gary. I think Douglas has probably learned this the hard way in doing all the planning for this event. But there are some things you need to know if you're going to work with Gary. And that is, one, you have to accept that he'll put off making decisions until the last minute. So if you like to be prepared ahead of time, you have to just get comfortable with his time frame. Don't leave things open-ended. Just give him 2 options that you're happy with. Make him choose from that. Cherish the rare high fives he gives you over the years. They're the closest he comes to giving performance appraisals. This one's important. Learn not to take on his stress. Gary's got this amazing ability to not stress over things. He says it's because he always lives in high stress, and so it's just become the norm. A very long time to learn not to take on double the stress for the both of us. If you're going to work, it's important to be willing to ask for help. A great example of this is I hate confrontation. I think Gary secretly likes being the bad cop or mean principal, so it's a great team. I get to be the good cop, and he gets to deal with problematic agents and students and telemarketers, you name it. But all kidding aside, Gary is very supportive. He cares about his staff. He's very fair, and he's a jack of all trades. We go to him not only for business advice, but for random things like when we're filing taxes, doing home repairs. If you have any questions about politics, he's your guy.
Yeah, in politics, I've learned not to ask about that if I don't have an extra hour. But he has an interesting perspective. Anytime there's trouble, his smile just gets wider and he looks off into the distance. A while ago, I was really worried about something and I had a meeting with Gary, and Gary just sat back in his chair and he sort of gazed at the sky and he said, "Think of how small we are compared to the galaxy." But anyway, 25 years is an impressive milestone that we should all feel proud of. We couldn't have done it without the wonderful staff, students, homestay families, and industry support. Gary and Kira have gained the respect and friendship of Manitoba's entire ESL school community.
Okay, so we'd like to just cap this off with a toast. If anyone did bring a drink down here, please raise your glass. So here's a special thanks to Gary for creating the place that we all love so much. Here's a huge congratulations to all of us for 25 years, 25 great years. And here's to many, many more. Cheers, everyone.
Okay, amazing. I'm so glad that I don't have to share any speech after Kira and Carol. And now is the turn for Gary.
I feel like I want a rebuttal, but let's maybe stick to my speech. And first, thanks to everyone for coming. This is amazing and special, and I really appreciate that everyone took their time to come out here. Last week, when we were preparing for the events, and we had the student involvement, and everyone wearing our Heartland T-shirts. There were volunteers, and we were getting ready. And so I was in classrooms just answering some questions. And the one student said, "Well, 25 years ago, how were you feeling?" And I stopped, and how was I feeling? And I don't know. I really can't recall what I was feeling 25 years ago at this time. And I said, "Well, I was probably panicking." But it's probably not the right answer, because Kira's kind of right. I tend not to stress about stuff, so it probably wasn't panic, but I can guess what I was thinking. And 25 years ago on this day, I was probably thinking, what have I done? Because we opened school on June 1st, so this would have been Sunday would have been June 6th. And we had a space, some mostly renovated classrooms. My brother was helping out, and we were ripping down walls of a music school to create classrooms. So thank you, Daryl. And he was fixing ballast last week, so that hasn't changed in 25 years. Going to my brother. If you think I'm the jack of all trades, he's like times 10. But anyway, We had some tables and chairs and whiteboards, so it kind of looked like a school. I had a teacher, Stuart, our first teacher, Stuart. Where is Stuart? Thank you. Imagine going for a job and, I'm starting this thing called a school in Winnipeg, and no, we don't have any customers. But let's see what happens. Yeah, that was kind of what Stuart walked into. So thanks, Stuart, for your bravery 25 years ago. But we didn't have any students. So I was probably thinking, what have I done? To back up a bit, I got the idea the previous year. So I've been teaching in Japan. And the short story is I was teaching in Japan, teaching English, came back to open an English school in Canada. When people ask, and I only have 10 seconds, that's the answer. But it was a bit more complicated than that. I actually came back from Japan wanting to open a golf holiday business. Because I like golfing, holidays, Japanese like golfing, all this golf tours. Anyway, that was my idea. But then, and I started studying an international business program at Red River College, thinking, okay, well, I'm going to take this year in this program, build my business plan, and start my golf holiday business. Well, about 2 weeks into that, I got this idea, and I had a girlfriend from Japan who was here looking for a language program, and she went to find a school, and there was one school operating, and I said, language school. You would think 3 years in Japan teaching English, it would have been somewhere in there. No, it wasn't there at all. And so December 15th, I have this email. It's printed out now. It's not in my work or anything. But I had this email to a friend who had been in Japan, Rennie Zagulski, and I said to him, Rennie, how's it going? I think I found a lucrative business to get in on. Blah, 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 blah. I think we can make a killing, easy $250,000 profit, blah, blah, blah. What do you say we start a language school? There's more to it here, but I won't bore you with the details. Interestingly, in here, I talk nothing about like quality or what English school is. It's all about let's start a business and make money. So, mea culpa. I was at least at that point just thinking about a business to make money. So I sent that email. Rennie, thank you for actually going with it. Although I think the Yoshinoya.
That was the first idea.
That was our first idea.
Yeah.
Rice with beef on top from Japan. It would have worked too. Anyway, so that's kind of where it's first got going. And so over the next 6 months, we did the work. We found a name, and if you saw the video that we produced last week, thanks Scott for producing videos and taking the pictures. The Yellow Pages story about how we kind of were in this rush to find a name. And so we were doing all that work. We found a space. We actually had a business plan, not because I was like really foresight and really diligent with things. It was more because the bank wanted one if we wanted some money. So it kind of forced us to write a business plan. And looking back on that, if you want upstairs, there's actually some artifacts in one of the rooms, and that business plan is there if you're curious. It had some good ideas in it. I think we kind of understood the market. Some things were really not so good, like our marketing. One thing said internet. Now, in 1999, that was about as much as anyone knew about that. So maybe that wasn't as bad as it looks now. But internet was something we figured was important. So all of that, in terms of operations and all that, it seemed okay. The one thing you won't notice in there is how to get students. I think it was really a build it and they will come hope. And we definitely did not map out the next 25 years. That's guaranteed. And reflecting on kind of the journey, the path, 25 years, the one thing when I think about it is looking back, how many things are just chance. You can plan all you want, but there's just so many things that are just pure chance, right? And an interesting story about that right at the beginning. So I told you I was in this Red River program. The idea is going to go a year. And so about 6 weeks into the program, I was at a Manitoba Moose hockey game. Stay with me. This story is a bit convoluted. I was at a Manitoba game. Jets weren't here then. My dad was there. My brother was there, and my brother and I being to put up our hand for anything. Signed up for the intermission thing, and they had a big earth ball, and you pushed it on the ice in your street shoes. Like just liability all over this thing. I don't think they would do that now. But anyway, so we go out, they blow the whistle, we start, boom, I fall, and my arm's hanging. My left arm's just kind of hanging there. And so we kind of play the 2 minutes, and I'm pushing the ball around. And later on, my dad says, "You're running kind of funny." And we go off the ice, and they're like, "Great job, way to go, rah, rah, rah." You know, the people at the hockey games. I said, "Can I see a medic? I think I might have dislocated my shoulder." And they're like, "Hey, great, way to go, slap me on the shoulder." I'm like, no, really. And at this point, I'm starting to like black out. So I sit down, they go, "Sure enough, dislocated my shoulder." And my brother takes me to St. Boniface Hospital. This is a commentary on healthcare. Takes me to St. Boniface Hospital. We're first intermission. I go back, get my shoulder set, sling, boom, we're back before the end of my dad. So from Cole Park to St. Boniface. So the next day, class at Red River, and I'm telling a classmate this crazy story about dislocating my shoulder. It's hilarious, really. And the teacher locks us out of the classroom. And you know, we're late, and so we have to knock on the door. And she just reams me out. And the other guy, too, unfortunately. It was my fault. It was my dislocated shoulder. But and I just kind of went, why am I doing this? Like, if I really want to do something, I just got to go for it. Next day, dropped out, and you know, kind of fully went for it with Heartland. And that was kind of like mid-January 1999. So kind of these chance events, right? Had I not dislocated my shoulder, maybe I wouldn't have jumped into it on time. Maybe I'm later into the game. Maybe 9/11 happens. Maybe the school never happens. So chance. Another chance connection is I was playing volleyball with someone, and they knew a graphic designer, and I was starting the school. And they said, "Oh, I know this guy, Jason. Jason here? Jason?" No, he was supposed to come. Maybe he'll come. Oh, there he is, Jason. Woo, Jason! And so I sit down with Jason over coffee or whatever, and I said, "I'm starting this school. We've got a name, Heartland International English School. I have no idea about design. Can you come up with something?" Talked to him for like 20 minutes, gave him some ideas, and he came. Well, this is our new iteration of the old logo. This was like original 1999, exactly the way it was. We have since, and he got it. Like he just nailed our brand from a concept. We didn't have students. I didn't have a teacher then, and he got it. So another chance meeting led to that. And thanks, Jay. You're still doing great work for us. And you know, here's another one. Just in 2014, we started our test center. So that's our 10th anniversary for that as well. We started doing IELTS testing, self-pip testing, and that was like meeting someone at a convention by name P and talking about doing IELTS testing at the school. And turns out that the IELTS manager for Canada school, and then him and his wife now run our school in Mississauga. So, you know, kind of a chance conversation over a beer at a conference turned into that. And now our test center has 30 employees, and Miguel and his staff are just doing amazing work with self-pip and IELTS. And, you know, some days we're not sure we're a school, we think we're a test center. But so again, the last by chance story, getting this building. So we were at the Massey building, and the police were moving out across the street and moving their headquarters. And so this building was run by the city of Winnipeg, and the police department was in here. They had all their files. If you look at the floor, you could actually see the bolts where all the files used to be. And in my mind, it's cold cases. It's probably not that exciting, but anyway, they had this building for police training and file storage or whatever kind of stuff. And so this came up, and Rennie was in commercial real estate, and he helped me, and we acquired this building. And as Carol said, you know, our forever home now, and it's just made all the difference being here. And so I never thought I was going to do this, but I'm going to say thanks to Sam Cates for the corruption around the police building allowed us to get this building. So you never know, like, what kind of things can happen that really turn out in your favor. So you can write all the business plans you want, but sometimes it's just luck and happenstance that kind of lead you where you're going. Here's mentioned there are hard times. Yeah, you know, 9/11, SARS, you know, everything that you list. Oh, and a pandemic in there, and now we've got study cap issues. But those ones we all navigated. I think for me, the harder time was more internal. Like I often tell people talking about starting a business as like, you can't quit. You know, there's days just like everyone else, you don't want to be here because it's just too hard. Like, you know, another crisis, like really, you know. And from about 2006 to 12, I was kind of wanting out. Like I actually went and worked with Navitas and, you know, their startup, and Kira said, "Oh, I think, you know, it's not, you know, much to go here. I think maybe I'll look for another job." And I was like, "Look, you're more important than I am. I'm promoting you to the director. I'm going to go work somewhere else." And I worked with Navitas setting up ICM for about 8 or 9 months. I was applying for other jobs. I applied for the president of Red River College. I applied for some overseas companies that were starting up. I was on school board. I ran for the Green Party. Like I was kind of half checked out some days, you know, and that's kind of the hard part. That, you know, as a business owner, it's tough because who do you talk to about that kind of stuff, right? But I was so kind of not there sometimes. Kira came up with the term for it. She called it BAD, business attention deficit disorder. And yeah, guilty, right? But it's difficult to quit your business, and thankfully we're still here. This idea of some heroic entrepreneur or leader, it's a myth. You know, you can easily write the book, these ups and downs, and persevered through it, but really everyone who's been involved has got us here. It's not me, it's everyone. And this speech is really just a big thank you to everyone who's been involved. And I mean, everyone in this room has had some part of the Heartland story. But the woman who recommended her, Leslie Wilder, was really hard to say no to and kind of scary. So, and Kira talked about the handshake, and she claimed I had a weak handshake, which was, but she was on crutches. It would have been like, it's going to knock her over if I said. And Yoshiko, where are Yoshiko? Yoshiko has been with Heartland.
Woo, Yoshiko!
For 21 years, so just a couple years less than Kira and Carol. And Yoshiko's back to full time with us now. So she had kind of started 60% and then was working a day a week, and now she's back to full time. So still pushing through with us. Thanks, Yoshiko. And Janine came on. Where's Janine?
Janine!
When Janine came on, it was actually a moment where I thought, wow, this is real. Because she came in and told us that she found out about the school, wanted to work here, went and got a certification, and then came and applied. Like, what? Like, we're just faking it. Like, this is So that was a moment I was like, whoa, wait, maybe this is something. Maybe people are paying attention. And all the staff, and if I miss anyone, I apologize. But Jeff, thanks for the speech. Ken and Michelle, congrats on the baby, and Margaret, and thanks for the pathway stuff, Margaret, and taking that on this year. And our new year teachers, Grace, Naomi, and Scott, maybe you heard from, and Alberto. So yeah, thank you. Like, with really, if you think about this, without teachers, there's nothing here, right? Like that's the frontline staff, and that's what gets people coming back and recommending us, and that's what's built it all, is being just fabulous people in the classroom. So thanks to everyone who's a teacher. And Jasmine and John, even though John left and Jasmine's on maternity leave, they've been a part of the family for a long time. Douglas, who loves party planning, but probably afterward more. Because you come in, they'll just be like, no. Awesome job. Party's awesome. Amoy for running literally the school. Literally, she runs the school. We could all leave and she would just run the school. I'm not suggesting, Moy, we're actually all going to leave and even run the school, but we know if we did, it would be fine. And as I mentioned, we got into testing, and Miguel was doing a fabulous job running our testing center. And that's the crazy opposite of language. Like most students love their teacher on some level, or at least tolerate them, whereas everyone who comes into Mayo hates him, right? Because it's like, you're in my way to getting into university or a permanent residency or whatever. So talk about a thankless job. And all the staff with Miguel, and Josue, and Jackie, and Wasim, and William, and on and on and on, everyone, all the IELTS staff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, IELTS!
When I started out, there's kind of this imposter syndrome, like, I literally just, this story is just like, hey, let's start school. And at the time, there's like no accreditations or licensings or anything. So you just did it, right? You opened your doors and you started school. Like super easy, relatively. But the one thing I connected with early on was an organization called MCIE, Manitoba Council for International Education. And at the time, it actually wasn't MCIE, it's the MIEIEIE or something like that. And a terrible acronym. But all the people there, like, again, just open arms, and, Karen and Birgit and Nigel and Gary and Ellen and Alex, I don't think you're right there in the beginning. Actually, none of those people were in there in the beginning. I'm just like, I'm probably the only first person anymore. Like that's kind of getting to that point in the industry. But anyway, that organization and community is truly fantastic and really supportive, and really helped in those early days, helped me understand the industry and helped me be credible, right? Because we would go to meetings and I was sitting there with, the universities and the high schools and the colleges, and all of a sudden I was on the playing field with them. And all our suppliers and support, Carlene, Canada Life, and Josh, our IT guy, who kind of feels like an employee. We treat him like an employee, and even though he's a contractor. Are you still here, Josh? No, he's yeah, he had to go. His kid was being a bit rambunctious.
Yeah, Josh!
And other suppliers like Gardner and Christine, thanks for coming out and supporting us. Michael and Paula in Mississauga and all their staff running our school. And then, like, beyond that, like around my life, my friends, my friend Glenn, who's here, been friends since we were 5 or 6 years old, and he developed an app for us that I might still be running somewhere out there, our Word of the Day app. And my friend Maureen, who was at one point I had shareholders in the company, and she invested in the company. It truly takes a village, right? And today, for today's event, I want to thank the volunteers, everyone in the t-shirts. You guys did an amazing job. And thanks. And everyone else, if you're here today, you're part of the Heartland family and our success. So thank you. And most importantly, all the students who have trusted us. I don't know. I honestly don't know how many students we've had over the years, but it's for sure more than 10,000. You think about all those people back in their countries all over the world, being ambassadors for Winnipeg, and the connections and the love stories, and it's just mind-boggling to think of that network and what we've impacted. And a few special thank yous. I've mentioned my brother for all his help. I mean, literally go to him if I can't solve it, he can. But also for inspiring me. It's super cool growing up with a brother who seemingly could do anything and does it willingly. From that first month and ripping out walls and turning small music rooms into classrooms, to changing ballasts last week in our lights so we could have lights today. So thanks, bro. And my mom and dad. My mom taught me how to balance a checking account when I was 10, because I and like, forget the MBA, like that was way more valuable, right? Learning to manage money when you're a kid. And she said, you make sure you have your next 2 weeks, pay to the free press ready, be 2 weeks ahead of your payments. Now, in that 2006 to 2010 era, when I had like $200,000 of credit card debt, I clearly was not in that place. But still. And then my dad actually, if we want to pinpoint a genesis of all this, back when I was, I don't know, second year university or something like that, my dad pointed out an article, like a class. Okay, for the younger people, there used to be a thing called a newspaper, and in the newspaper, there's a section called classifieds, and in the classifieds, they had ads, and they would be like really short because you paid by the letter, and he cut it out and said, "Hey, yen teaching English in Japan." And that was what got me interested in that. And they probably just wanted me out of the house. But so thanks. My parents were always encouraging and pushing us to do stuff. And by pushing, I don't mean like in a bad way. I mean in like a sportive way, just so you don't misunderstand that. I think for this family I grew up in, which is a bit weird in a way, because our family is obsessive do-it-yourselfers. Like it's just beyond like anything. Like you should just be able to do everything on your own, which kind of this family I grew up in. My parents was like, well, why would you pay for that? We'll just learn how to do it. And they would. And my dad's like, was a mechanic and he could fix anything. And mom was like fixing more than most mechanics do, because she would do everything. So I grew up in this atmosphere. And so that combined with my inherent laziness actually creates this really great, combination for an entrepreneur. Because you think everything can get done and you don't need to hire any outside help, but you don't actually want to do it. So you call your brother or you hire people to do stuff. So anyway, Mom and Dad, thanks. Everything's because of you.
Yeah!
And my lovely wife, Fernanda. Whatever happens with Heartland, I know it's a success because it brought us together. So it can fail tomorrow, and this is all fine, right? It's not failing tomorrow. Don't rush up your resumes. We're okay. But te amo, mi amor. Thanks for your unwavering support and love. And Shelly and Ray, you're the MCI for me too. I forgot to mention you. You're on here, and I missed you. So yeah, it's just a big thank you to everyone. I love you all.
Oh, thanks, Gary, for the amazing speech. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us. We are opening the bar upstairs again until 7:30. So if you want to go upstairs to the kitchen area, grab a drink, eat something, feel free. If you want to get a couple pictures with Gary as well, Scott is here available. We are also streaming the speeches on YouTube. So we have a camera here. I'm going to just ask Stephen to turn the camera down so they can see people there. Yeah, a bit more. Like, keep going. Okay, and let's say, hi, everyone. We have people connected from Brazil, all over Latin America, and in Asia, and all the partners in Canada as well. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and then enjoy the rest of the party.
Yeah!